I've owned a GR Corolla for 2 years now, and I've also driven its competition. This is not the best driver's car in the class. However, it does excel in the real world. So today I want to see how it does in a winter wonderland. So we are currently estimated to get like a foot of snow, and maybe like 4 inches have dropped right now. So this is the perfect opportunity. It's also probably the last opportunity that I'm going to get to really take this car out of its element. Ah, damn. I definitely went the wrong way. That's better. Briefly, if you enjoy fun, detailed car content, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. Thank you. I'm not going to go through all the performance stats in today's video, and that's not the point, but here are some of the most pertinent specs. So obviously, this is all-wheel drive, but I want to talk a little bit more about how this system works today. The rear differential and the front differential have slightly different gear ratios. The rear wheels are going to want to spin faster than the front wheels. So the rear clutch pack, instead of just truly locking, because they can't do that, the rear wheels want to spin faster, it's going to act as a brake. So the more that it engages, the more that it will want to overdrive the rear wheels. That's going to allow the system to have a rear bias if it wants it. But even if you select the rear bias mode in my 2023, you're just telling the system to send up to 70% to the rear. For 2025, they've changed this so that the track mode now will fluctuate. Instead of trying to get 70% of torque to the rear, it can prioritize front or rear biases when it makes sense. Maybe they did this for better heat dissipation. A common issue with the GR Corolla is that the all-wheel drive system tends to overheat after 10 to 15 minutes of hot laps. However, this problem comes from the transfer case. You can now order an aftermarket cooler that fixes this. Anyway, the taller rear gearing does help this feel more eager to send torque to the back than most front drive-based systems. Other cars have had this type of system before, like the Mazda 3. But another thing that makes this one special is the fact that we have a limited slip rear differential and front differential. So that should theoretically make traction very good.
A few moments later.
Oh, oh, this is not a good situation. I'm gonna get out of the way here. Oh, come on, girl. Come on, girl. Okay, we're gonna stop for a second. Oh, that's not good. So we're gonna have to stop it in gear or else it will slide back. Sorry, I had to go grab my camera. That was definitely more sketchy than I wanted it to be. At least I haven't seen any other cars over here. So most other people have better decision-making skills than myself. But this parking brake is special because it also disconnects the power to the rear. That way you don't damage any components if you decide to rip it for any reason while you're in motion. Now I want to come back to the tire talk because that is something that is hugely important, because as you've seen, all-wheel drive was able to get me up this very steep drive, but there's not much that I can do when I want to come down it. If you want to be smart about doing this kind of thing, you need to have snow tires. This car with those tires is the best solution. For me, I'm just personally not investing, $800 or $1,000 into something that I will use once or twice a year. But back to the all-wheel drive system, the limited slip differentials really help in scenarios like this, where you might break a tire loose. With a traditional open diff, you're going to have basically even more power sent to the wheel that is now spinning. And that is just going to get you stuck. To combat this, a lot of modern all-wheel drive systems use what's called brake vectoring, and that's going to stop that spinning wheel and send power to the other one that has more traction, the one that's spinning slower. The limited slip is basically a on-the-fly locking diff. It's not going to replace an actual, mechanical locking differential, but it does mean that whenever you're going around a corner in dry conditions, it's able to put down a lot more power before spinning an inside wheel or something, helping you achieve faster lap times and also just more consistent performance. If you've ever pushed a rear-wheel drive performance car that has an open diff, like the Nissan Z that I drove in California, whenever it starts to break loose, it becomes twitchy and a little bit unpredictable and scary. So a limited slip helps solve that. Right now we have it in 60/40, and we're just gonna see what happens if I induce a little bit of wheel spin. So honestly, it is tracking pretty straight. I don't feel the rear end really wanting to kick out too much. So now let's put it in track. So this is the 50-50 split in my car. I mean, it feels pretty balanced. In the snow, the rear bias mode makes this very tail happy, especially on my midlife summer tires. We're just we'll stop eventually. Try to threshold brake, but there's almost no threshold braking when you just tap the brakes and they immediately lock up. So with that 70%, I'm able to really just kick the rear wheels out and basically do a U-turn. I showed that in the beginning, and honestly, that is so much, it's fun, but it's also practical because you can really make a tight corner that would be in more of a precarious 3-point situation into a quick maneuver. We'll switch it back straight into the 60/40. The 70% mode definitely makes a difference in snow and ice, because now it's so much less tail happy. In 60/40, I am able to really get up to speed. Here is an unplowed, untouched stretch of snowy road that's at a pretty nice angle. So this is kind of like someone's mildly steep driveway. You might not really be able to make it out on camera, but trust me, it goes up a decent amount. We'll try track mode for the all-wheel drive system. Oop. So there we ran into a problem of the engine stalling. So the wheels are spinning and then they get traction and they stop. So I do need to be a little bit more diligent about feathering the clutch here. We're spinning, but she made it. What you really got to see there at work was the limited slip differentials, sending power side to side, making sure that all four wheels are putting in work. And to show you how slick it is, we're gonna try to stop. So that took a decent amount of time just to come down from a 5 mph starting speed. Okay, there is a hill that's a little bit steeper that I'm a little bit more scared to go up. I am gonna put it into, actually we'll just try it 60/40, just start up the car and go, what happens? No way. Ooh. Okay, it got through the mild incline. Now we're getting a little bit more steep. Let's see if we can do it here. This is 60/40 mode. We're gonna switch real time. Now we're 70/30. Now we're expert mode. That was really good. It's just able to keep sending power to the wheels that have traction and don't have traction. There's no waiting for traction control to shift power to the wheel that actually has grip. And I think that's what can kind of stop a lot of other vehicles. But yeah, no problem for the GR Corolla, even here on these specific tires. If you had a lot of small SUVs with this kind of traction, I don't necessarily think they would be able to make it up this. After filming a little bit of B-roll and putting away my camera equipment, more snow accumulated and I almost did not make it out. All four wheels were spinning, causing the car to slide closer and closer to the curb. Eventually, the Toyota crawled its way to the top. Oh man. I have definitely met the precise limits of these tires. You can really count on this system to pull you up I think that is a really big selling point for a lot of people. Maybe they aren't constantly driving in conditions like this, but it's nice to know that if things go south, you have a car that should be able to get you home. When these summer performance tires aren't being tormented by ice, the GR Corolla displays excellent stability. There's a little bit of body roll that you could get rid of if you put in a better suspension, but in a setting like this, it's really just communicating more of the car's current status. While the ride is firm and can be harsh on some commutes, Toyota has done a good job damping this so that it doesn't get bouncy or unsettled mid-corner. There's also large two-piece rotors that are both powerful and easy to modulate. I can personally attest that this thing can handle plenty of mountain abuse with no problems. It doesn't really hold up as well at 9 to 10 tenths. Once again, that all-wheel drive system does have a tendency to overheat. And while you can play with the throttle and brakes to rotate the car, it will understeer when driven hard, especially on the stock tires. Michelin Pilot Sport 4S rubber will make the car a little sharper. And I like how the steering weight builds up. I'm getting just enough feedback to feel confident when traction is low. Even on this salty, cold road, the Corolla is still fun. And on tight back roads, this thing is really hard to beat. 300 horsepower is plenty. And I like that the engine makes you work for it. The shifter isn't too mechanical, yet gives you a meaty thunk into each gear. The clutch is heavier than what you'll find in a lot of new cars, but it has a wide friction zone. It's pretty easy to use. Plus, you're gonna have to shift a lot, which really adds to that rally car factor. This is so much fun when the road is less than ideal. And that's just not something that you can say about the Civic Type R, even though that is going to have a more holy gearbox, and that is also going to have better steering. It's gonna be more capable in the right conditions. This is where this car shines. On the road around you, chances are you're gonna have a blast, no matter what time of the year it is. And I think that's really the point of this style of Japanese turbocharged compact. You can fault this car for its cheap interior, tight back seat, and small cargo area for a hatchback. But if the goal of this was rally car for the street, I think Toyota nailed it. Just make sure that's also what you want. Now, funny enough, if you've been following with the channel, you know that I am selling this car. And you might even be surprised that I still have this car. And that's because I'm buying a Miata, and well, Mazda doesn't make a whole lot of Miatas in the winter. I'm swapping this car out for the MX-5 because I don't think a car like the Mazda will be able to exist a whole lot longer. I'm sure that this is not the last round of enthusiast vehicles, but I don't think that we can make a new EV or hybrid that is as pure and lightweight as the Miata. Whereas a car like this, yeah, you really want a turbocharged engine with a lot of character, but I do think that companies will still try to make something that's, uber confident, small and enthusiast focused with an electrified heart. I don't see that as impossible, but honestly, after driving this more in the winter again, I might buy another as a daily, if I can afford it, at some point. I'm not gonna say it's the most entertaining car in the class, but if I already have an MX-5 in my garage, I do think this would be an awesome addition. So I think I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you for watching. Thank you to my channel members for helping me improve my videos over the last year or so. Consider joining for additional content, and I will catch you in the next one.